The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly Speaking podcast coming to you July 2nd. 2023. It is halftime here on this calendar year. How you guys doing? Hope you guys having a wonderful. I guess you can call it a holiday weekend because I mean I'm assuming there's no banks and stuff open. These government agencies open tomorrow on the 3rd. Also the fact that July 4th is on Tuesday, but I figure it'd be an extended weekend. I don't know. Don't impact me. I'm still working on my days on Monday, so don't impact me. But if you are having having the benefit of having the long holiday weekend, congrats to you. Salute to you. I hope you enjoy it. Stay safe, of course. Also, a special birthday shout out to my brother Maurice, who holy shit, he turned 39 years old. Oh my god. So happy birthday to you, Maurice. That's tomorrow on the 3rd. Love you very much. Let's get to the podcast today. I said lots. There's a lot to get to, but this is the weekend edition of the pod. I don't like to go too crazy with topics here. I like to kind of check in because we do the show typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's a big gap between Thursday and Tuesday, so I typically like to do a Sunday pod just to kind of check in with things, especially during football season, of course, which we're hoping to be doing that more often. Takeaways on once football comes around here, which by the way, we're inching closer. We're now in July, which means we are now touching the first month where we'll have some actual football content to talk about in terms of training camp and everything else leading up to that. And of course, next month is preseason, and of course, September we kick it off. And it is also, you guys know, been on this ride for the last 12 years. It is typically the fall is typically the busiest time of the show with content. As you know, you have NFL football, you have college football, you have baseball wrapping up, the baseball playoffs. You got the return of basketball in October. So there's a lot going on. And in basketball, of course, it's over, but we got a lot going on in the offseason already. As Damian Lillard has officially requested a trade from the Portland Trail Blazers. Obviously, the teams that are going after him right now, obviously the big thing on that is this. The big piece of that, the three teams involved, obviously the big thing was that he specifically said in his request that he wants to play with Miami Heat. Great for me, of course. I'm a Heat fan. You don't want him here. Obviously, I mean, the thought is that the Portland Trail Blazers are going to try to do good by him. The problem is, and if you're hearing some of the background on this right now, is that he don't have much what Portland wants. Like any trade that you see Miami get involved in with this, it's going to involve probably Tyler Hero, and the word is that Portland doesn't necessarily want Tyler Hero in a deal. Miami has I don't know the numbers on this right now, but they have maybe a couple draft picks to give up. Couple pieces, expiring contract, Kyle Lowry. You have a Caleb Martin, which I'm sure the Heat don't want to throw in that deal. Duncan Robinson, things of that nature. But Portland wants draft picks, so most likely a third team will have to get involved in this deal. I saw Bobby Marks on ESPN, work up a trade machine, a mock where Portland can get 5 picks. Portland gets 5 picks. 3 of Brooklyn's picks, because Brooklyn has picks up the wazoo for the next, 7 to 8 years. They also get 2 of Miami's picks. Tyler Hero goes to Brooklyn, and Portland will obviously ship off Damian Lillard to Miami. So that's just that. So right now, it's funny. My wife has been like all over this too, like asking me like hour on the hour. So what's up with the trade? Is it done yet? And I go, honey, this can take anywhere from like 10 minutes to 10 weeks, depending on how this goes, because there's a lot of machinations on this that's going to work out. But here's the bottom line. if we're to believe Damian Lillard goes to Miami, in my opinion, this makes him one of the favorites in the Eastern Conference again. Like you say, well, when the East last year. Well, again, look, let's be real about that. There's a lot of I don't want to say flukiness to their run, but again, you go back to the first round of playoffs when Giannis missed half the series. If Giannis is full healthy throughout the entire series, maybe that goes the other way. I'm not saying anything out of pocket there, right? And even as a Heat fan. The Boston series, of course, that was wacky itself, and yeah, they almost blew a 3-0 lead in that series. They got to the finals, which is great, and obviously I'm not mad about that for obvious reasons. But if you're asking me right now, coming back into next season, looking at the Eastern Conference, who's your favorites in order? I would argue Boston got better. Even though they lost Marcus Smart, I would argue adding Porzingis. Actually, with Porzingis, Jaylen Brown next year, assuming he's going to be there beyond next year, which I think that's to be the case. At least the optics show that in terms of them probably offering the super max for him. That hasn't happened yet. And of course, you got Jason Tatum as well, who's probably a top 5 player in the league. I would argue that Boston got better. I would also argue that Milwaukee bringing the band back together again. They re-signed Chris Middleton. We'll get to that in a second. Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez is back, and you got Giannis healthy, and Drew Holiday. I would argue Milwaukee is probably still the favorite in the Eastern Conference. Now, I wouldn't put them as the significant favorite. I think Miami's right there. If Miami gets Lillard, is certainly in the conversation. And we also got to see what does Miami give up to get Lillard. Because look, Miami, they lost guys. They lost Gabe Vincent. They lost Max Strus. So you still need parts around the three to make it work. And I'm not knocking the fact that you get Lillard. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And obviously, we'll talk more about that once the trade is done. If it does come to fruition, I don't want to speak out of pocket until the trade's actually done. But I'm just talking hypothetically. If Damian Lillard is here in Miami, there's definitely a top 3 team list of Milwaukee, Miami, Boston. I would move down Philadelphia a notch, especially with the James Harden trade request as it came in. I mean, James Harden will likely not be there next year. Likely, he did opt his contract, but the word is he's trying to go elsewhere. Again, I don't know what he wants. I know if it's a money issue or whatever. It doesn't make any sense to me. I thought he was, obviously his, playoff failures aside, I thought he was great for Philadelphia, led the league in assists, and did a great job with that. Obviously, playoff fails aside with that, but that situation is another weird one. But Damian Lillard asking out of Portland, we all kind of saw this coming. We saw the writing on the wall for the last couple of weeks, and him saying certain things to the media, and then him also, with Portland, what they were doing. And I'll say it again. I said in the last podcast I did on this topic, the last solo pod I did actually, was that I believe Portland wants to move on. The fact that they didn't trade the 3rd pick in the draft tells you that. But they're not going to be the ones to force the issue because of public relations, because of PR. And if they force the issue, they look bad. They want Lillard to do it. Lillard will get less backlash. In fact, Damian Lillard has not gotten any backlash for this at all. I haven't seen any from the fan base, from anywhere in between. I believe Portland wants to move on. They want to start building for the future, and you can't. The best thing to do is you trade your best asset, which is Damian Lillard, and you get what you get back. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Obviously, the Sixers already said they're not going to trade Tyrese Maxey in any deal for Lillard. So Philly is already restricting themselves in that. Brooklyn could be a player in this, and we saw a report last night that the Utah Jazz has said that they may want to get involved in the event that the Miami deal falls apart. But it does feel like that the heavy favorite now for Lillard in terms of where he's going to go is likely the Miami Heat. Now, how that works out, 3rd team, what pieces, we'll see what happens there. But the report was last night that Lillard, his approach right now is it's Heat or bust. He wants to go to Miami. He specifically said about the Miami Heat. So, obviously, if that's the case and if Portland is going to want to do right by him, you'll make that work. So we'll obviously on this podcast give you updated on how that situation plays out. Hopefully it plays out well, and I'm looking forward to him being in Miami as a Heat fan, of course. But we shall see. As for the rest of NBA free agency, it was a very active 2 days thus far. It opened up, obviously, Draymond Green returning to Golden State. No surprise there. 4 years, $100 million. So they keep him for pretty much the duration of his career. And, obviously with that happening now, we'll see how the Klay Thompson thing is affected. 4 years, $100 million for me, it smooths out. It gives the team kind of flexibility. Well, obviously we'll see how it happens to Klay. But that's a win for the Warriors there, obviously, in my opinion. Kyrie Irving re-signs for the Mavericks. No surprise there. 3 years, $126. That's a win for the Mavericks. Kyrie obviously won. He wants the bird rights. They obviously won in 4 to 5 years, but Kyrie had a small market. Dallas wins that battle. It is a 3-year deal, but year 3 is a player option. So Kyrie could hypothetically go back and get another bag in 2 years if he is deemed trustworthy. If he can, these next 2 years, really show to be a great citizen, no drama, that shows up, plays, not get hurt, the whole 9, he can secure one more bag in 2 years. He opt out on his 3rd year and then try to get another bag. So, but it's the win for Dallas now. What this says right now is that there's a 2-year window right now between him and Luka Doncic. We'll see if Luka, does he get antsy after 2 years and 1 out? This is a 2-year window for Dallas going forward. Fred VanVleet, 3 years, $130 with the Houston Rockets. A lot of money. A lot of people saying it's a lot of money, overpay. Yeah, it is overpay, but at the same time, you understand that teams have to spend 90% of their cap room. That is mandated in the CBA. Okay, Houston, there's more money available out there than the actual players who deserve this kind of top tier dollars. And because no one's going to Houston, no big players going to Houston, Houston's going to overpay in general. Okay, they have cap room out the wazoo. So VanVleet getting this money should not be a surprise. In fact, him getting a 3-year deal as well means that with this new TV deal on the horizon, players are starting, especially younger players like VanVleet, who's still in his I think his early 20s, are likely to get another big bag in 2-3 years, with that team money coming up in a couple of years and that salary cap ballooning. So smart there. Jeremy Grant signs 5-year, $160 with the Blazers. Of course, that was a deal that many believe that maybe could have kept Lillard in Portland, but clearly that's not the case. Overpay, of course, too, but again, another team that's trying to start fresh, but also need to spend 90% of the cap. Chris Middleton, like I said earlier, both Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez returned to Milwaukee. Middleton signed a 3-year, $102 with the Bucks. Brook Lopez signed a 2-year, $48 million as well. They bring it back together. It's a 2-year window, pretty much 2-3 year window with Giannis in that core. And let's also be real, too, also. Since they won a title in 2021, they've technically not defended their crown as a full roster when you think about this. So after they won in 2021, okay, Chris Middleton gets hurt in the first round against Chicago. Middleton misses the playoffs. They lose to Boston in Game 7 in the second round of the playoffs without Chris Middleton. Okay, arguably the second best player on the team. Last year, as you guys know, as I mentioned earlier, Giannis missed half the series against Miami. And by the time Giannis got back, they're already down 2-1 and this and that. If Giannis plays that series, who knows if it goes all the way? Who knows? But Milwaukee has not been able to defend their title as a full roster. So it does behoove them to try this out this core one more time. Okay, there were thoughts that maybe they were sneakily rebuild this kind of thing, but clearly they're not going to do that. And they believe in this core, and and what they're saying too also is that Mike Budenholzer was the problem, and now he's been gone. He was obviously let go earlier this during the playoffs back in May. So we'll see how the new coach does there. It was Adrian, I forgot his name, because I'm top of my head right now. Kyle Kuzma staying in Washington with a 4-year, 102, 4 years, 102, with the Wizards. Not a bad deal there. Like I said, Porzingis was traded to the Celtics last week, and then he's also agreed to a 2-year extension through the 25-26 season. Let's see what else. I'm just going through the list here of all these transactions. This one gutted me at first. Gabe Vincent going to the Lakers on a 3-year, $33 million deal. Obviously, this also was coming. This happened prior to Damian Lillard's announcement of wanting to be traded. So obviously he knew what was going on there. They were not going to pay out the wazoo for him. I believe they offered him a $7 million a year deal at 3 years. And obviously he turned that down for obvious reasons, and he deserves the money. I'm happy for him. I hope he does well in LA. So I'm very happy for him. Max Strus also, did a sign trade yesterday. Officially played the sign. Strus gets 4 years, $64 million on the sign trade Miami. Again, another guy that the Heat have limited cap room. They couldn't resign these guys, and if they want to be in the Lillard sweepstakes, they need to have as much flexibility as possible. So the risk is you let these guys walk. But of course, Lillard's now announced his trade, and he wants to come to Miami. So we'll see how that plays out, of course. But again, as a Heat fan, I'm very happy for these dudes, Vincent and Strus, for getting the bag. They deserve it. But it is a little bit of an overpay there as well. Going through the list here, the Lakers had a fantastic, in my opinion, had a very good free agency. They retained Rui Hachimura on a 3-year, $51 million contract. They also retained as well. Who was it that they signed? They actually brought back D'Angelo Russell, which was a shock, but they got him at 2 years, $37 million rather. They also got Rui. Austin Reeves on a 4-year, $53 million contract. I thought the Lakers had a very, very good off season. They rather than go for one star, they went and built. They're going to build around supplementary parts around LeBron and AD, which I think is a smart move to do. Because you go after Kyrie, for example, what happens there is that when somebody gets hurt, you have nothing around you to help you, and you see how that played out with Russell Westbrook. It was a bad fit for them. Did not work out well for them. All right, who else? Bruce Brown, one of the heroes of the NBA Finals. He secured a big bag in Indiana, signing a 2-year, $45 million deal with the Pacers. Pacers sneaky team next year. Because they also re-signed, maxed out Tyrese Halliburton, 5 years, is it $240? I think it was in that one. I'm not sure exactly. I'll go to the list here real quick. Karis LeVert returns to Cleveland on a 2-year, $32 million deal. That's a good sign there. Dennis Schroeder finally gets paid, goes to Toronto for 2 years, $26 million. LaMelo Ball gets the max with the Hornets at 5 years, $260. Kevin Love staying in Miami on a 2-year deal. I think it was like $3.4 billion per, I believe, for that. The Heat also, Rook 2, if you remember the Heat from 2015 and on, Rook 2, Josh Richardson, is returned to the Heat on a 2-year deal. No numbers were released on that, but reportedly it's less than Kevin Love's deal. So I actually, Heat fan, love that move, honestly. Still a good player, 10 points a game, bringing Miami. The difference now is that Josh Richardson will be a player that will fit in much better because he's not going to have the expectations of trying to be a star when he came to the league, 6-7 years ago. He'll be playing behind Jimmy Butler, but he'll be a utility player, and he'll get a lot of burn, obviously. Seth Curry agrees a 2-year deal with the Dallas Mavericks. Derrick Rose signed a multi-year contract with the Memphis Grizzlies. He'll get some playing time, especially out the shoot with John Moran being out for the first quarter of the year. Like I said, Austin Reeves returns at 4 years for $30 million. The Clippers are bringing back Russell Westbrook for 2 years, $8 million. That's a good move for the Clippers. I'm surprised Westbrook didn't get a bigger bag elsewhere, but I think it's a good move for Russ. I said D'Angelo Russell stays in with the Lakers. Dylan Brooks agrees to 4-year, $80 million deal with the Houston Rockets, despite all the controversy in Memphis. People are saying, well, this is a bad deal for the Rockets. Here's the problem. As I said earlier in the podcast, there's more money to give out than actual great players. You have to pay 90% of your salary. And the thing is, fine, you don't want to pay him. Who you pay? People say, well, you should pay someone else. Well, go through the list of free agents available right now in the NBA. Who has name value that's worth that kind of money? Nobody is. So it makes sense. Is it overpay? Yes, but it's under the circumstances he had to do it. The Pacers and the Knicks had a trade. The Pacers acquired Obi Toppin for the Knicks for 2 second-round picks. As I said earlier, Tyrese Halliburton signed a 5-year, $260 million max extension as well. Desmond Bane for the Grizzlies for 5 years, $207 max contract for Desmond Bane. It's a good one there for them. Patrick Beverley is going to Philadelphia on a 1-year deal at $3-something million. And then finally the last thing that came in last night, Domantas Sabonis, All-NBA center, agrees to a 5-year extension at $217. That's a great move for the Kings. The Kings are going to be a problem the next couple of years. The league's in a great place, man. The reason it's in a great place is it's so watchable right now. Lots of contenders. Hoping to do a podcast. Have somebody on the podcast next couple of days, hopefully to discuss more in scope of opinions on where these signings. Obviously, Lillard, we want to see where Lillard goes also too as well. But where these signings and how these things impact the rest of the league moving forward for the next year and the years after. So, again, great job. Fantastic. Fun times when it comes to this league. And we'll talk more about it in the days to come. All right, ESPN and Disney. ESPN laying off. We've been hearing for months that lots of layoffs are going to happen in the near future. And, man, some of the names that got laid off on Friday, Black Friday came and went at ESPN. Probably the most shocking name of all that got laid off was Jeff Van Gundy, because Jeff Van Gundy is on the Team A of the NBA broadcast team alongside Mark Jackson and Mike Breen. Very shocking that he's gone. But some other notable names here that got laid off by ESPN: Jalen Rose, Keyshawn Johnson, Max Kellerman, Susie Colbert. That's another shocking one. She's fantastic. Chris Chelios, the hockey analyst. Matt Hasselbeck, NFL. Steve Young, NFL. Rob Ninkovich, NFL. Neil Everett, of course, he did his last show last week. You got Ashley Brewer, you got June Lee, LaFonso Ellis, Todd McShay, that's another shocking one. Jordan Cornette, you got Jason Fitz, and David Polak, all gone. Some of the big names that have been laid off by ESPN. Jalen Rose, I believe, will be okay. I think he'll find, my prediction is that he'll go to the Ringer, because him and Bill Simmons have a connection. He'll be fine. He has got a lot of name value. Max Kellerman, another guy, I think will be fine. He'll find somewhere to go. He's too good for what he does to not get a job elsewhere. Keyshawn Johnson, I'm not a really big fan of him personally. He'll probably find he'll probably find a home somewhere because, again, name value. And all these guys, the Steve Youngs, Nikoviches, the Hasselbacks, all these former athletes, they probably should get jobs elsewhere. But ESPN and again, we're not surprised because we been hearing about this for months that there was another sign of firings coming. By the way, see a lot of these idiots also, making fun of these people getting laid off and just kind of like stop. Just be glad it wasn't you. Some people also saying that well, what about Stephen A. Smith? Why he has a big salary? Why does he get cut? Well, you do realize Stephen A. Smith is probably the biggest name there, number one. Probably draws the most revenue for their company, number two. And if you may not agree or like what he does or how his style is, but go and look at the YouTube numbers. Look at the YouTube numbers. Look at the first take clips on ESPN on YouTube. It is by far the biggest of all the personalities on there. Stephen A. Smith creates revenue at that company. How in the hell would you fire him? That'd be stupid. He is, for all intents and purposes, he is ESPN. He'll get another bag very soon. I think his contract is up in 2 years. He'll get another bag because, again, he draws revenue. You not liking somebody and someone has nothing to do with what is. He creates revenue. So deal with it. And if you don't like it, you don't have to watch. Just that simple. Okay? So, very sad day there at the Philadelphia Network. Hopefully these names, these folks do find other opportunities elsewhere as well. Also, the Supreme Court, I guess I'm going to call it politics, I'm going to call that. The Supreme Court had a week, should I say, last week, where they made some very, very big decisions affecting student loans. First off, dealing with the student loan forgiveness. They rejected that by the Joe Biden administration's $400 million student loan forgiveness program. They also said that held that a Christian graphic artist can refuse on free speech grounds to design websites for same-sex couples, despite a Colorado law that bars discrimination based on sexual orientation and other characteristics. And then they also rejected affirmative action in higher education facilities like Harvard and whatnot. In terms of the student loan forgiveness thing, you guys have heard my stance on this for a couple of years now. I have said that while I am not necessarily a fan of student loan forgiveness, as it is, I am still fluid on the conversation. I'm still open to seeing the other side on that. And I already said one reason why I'm not really a big fan of that is because I know that if they do that, it's not going to go away. They're going to throw it on taxpayers like myself. I didn't go to college, okay? So why should I pay for that something I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I know you can lump it in all this stuff, but it doesn't matter. On principle, I don't want to pay for something I had nothing to do with. You know what I'm saying? But I am also fluid on the argument. I'm also open to hearing ideas that why we should allow forgiveness program. This is also why this is also why I've been saying for years. I think, and I'm being proven right now as I get older that college is really overrated. Like unless you know what you want to do, and it requires education, I think college is overrated. In my opinion, I think it's a waste of money. I'm sorry. And even my parents who have been very pro education, even my elders, all my elders, none of my parents, but anybody else, have sort of pivoted a little bit. Like they understand that yes, education is important, but it's also a money grab too as well. Like it depends on what you are doing. If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, this and that, obviously that requires education. That requires going a certain route to get to that point. But to me, I find college very predatory. I find student loan programs and whatnot predatory. And we need to look into that. There was something that, and I can't even say this, but I actually agree with presidential candidate Ron DeSantis on, where these schools be held more accountable for this money they let out. You know, that they should be held to standard of paying back some of these loans. I don't disagree with that one bit. In terms of the graphic artists and the free speech law, look, I don't like the fact that I think we can find middle ground here. My thing is this though: if let's say you're a gay couple and you're going somewhere as a private entity, if you're a person, and the fact I disagree with the characteristics here. If I'm a person of faith that doesn't agree with same-sex marriage, all that, I shouldn't be forced to design something. This is why capitalism is great. And not only that, why would I want to give someone my business of someone that's actually a bigot, a racist, a prejudice? You shouldn't force them to design something that you want to force, even though if they're a private entity, of course. So on one hand, I actually kind of agree with this ruling in a sense. But if this is a place or a company that's like federally or a federal company that's getting taxpayer dollars, that's different. But a private company, do what you want, but you do it at your own risk because now you're not putting yourself in the corner of someone that could be outed as a bigot and you lose business. That's what I always say. We'll be racist. Be racist. Let them talk. Be racist. It's legal to be racist, but you know damn well that there are consequences to that. Leave the evil in the open. That way we know who you are. In terms of affirmative action, it's another situation where I see the law and I understand the law portion of this. I just think this is bad optics, especially for the right wing. And they're not done. They're going to come after other things also too. I do think I'd like to see if I've come to a place in America, because we're never really truly equal. We all want equality. We all want to feel like we are equal. Feel like there's no prejudice anymore. But the only way we can really truly see that is ripping off all the restrictions. Let's see now if schools or anywhere maybe are going to hire, are going to react based on merit alone. I agree. It should be meritocracy. I totally agree with that. I just think rejecting affirmative action, there's bad optics with that as well too. best way to do this, and I was talking to some friends about this a couple days ago on this, and I agree with them, is take away race. Take away race as a when you go interview someone or someone that's supposed to go to college. Race shouldn't be a requirement anymore. Shouldn't be a requirement. You should even have the option of putting race on a sheet of paper. Because again, I want to. If we are a equal country as we say we are, as people claim we are, let's see it. But this is bad optics also too. Okay, and I don't know. We'll see how this plays out in the years to come. But yeah, like I said, a lot of my stances are very, very common sense and moderate. But laws like this happened because there was inequality. There's the thing people don't understand. You might get, especially with white people, you get mad about this stuff, yet you act like slavery wasn't a thing before. You act like people like myself, my wife, can get married just like decades ago. Okay? You act like this was ever a thing. That was a thing. You act like I didn't have voting rights. You act like women didn't have voting rights at one point. So don't act like, oh, we don't need these things because it was never needed, when in fact we had a time where people like myself, black folks like myself, couldn't vote, couldn't marry someone outside my race, okay, just 50, 60 years ago. We're talking about literally just a couple generations. We've had slavery in this country. So don't miss with the bullshit also too. Now, have we come a long way since then? Absolutely. And I do want to see a world where we don't need affirmative action, that people are all hired or selected based on merit. Absolutely. But it feels like the Supreme Court in the last year, between pulling, women's rights, affirmative action, a couple of other things, have found a way to sway the pendulum the other way now. It's bad optics. And these are conservatives doing this now, who are mostly Republicans. Then I have to ask you, a lot of you folks, on the right side say Democrats is that. And believe me, a lot of things are Democrats I can't stand. And I spoke about this on podcasts for many years, okay? But riddle me this real quick. And answer this question for me one day. Why should I vote for you? Why should I vote for you and your side? What are you providing different and substantial? That's the question you should be answering. And that's why this is gridlock. This is why this two-party system sucks. Unfortunately, it does suck. And why, I'm not a Joe Biden supporter, I find myself leaning that way because at least on that side of the aisle, they're a little closer to the things that I agree with than the other side. And take this from someone who used to be a Republican, who at one time, saw some of the compassion on that side to some degree. No, it's gone full tilt now the other way. So while I'm not a fan of Democrats, and I'm not even registered Democrat for quite a while, I'm an MPA. This is why I continue voting to the left sometimes, because yes, they're problematic, but on policy, they're closer to where I am than you guys are. So again, I ask you again, and I beg of this. And for the record, there are Republicans I do like. I spoke on this just a month ago. I did a segment on the show showing a Republican I didn't like, who I would consider voting for if he ran. But why should I vote for you? Why? Give me a reason why to vote for you. And that's where I'm lost. So, very consequential time, in the Supreme Court. Again, this is why voting's important. You must vote. Don't boo, vote, as Obama says. And that's just it. Our last thing before I get out of here, last topic on the show, last segment of the show. Yesterday was the WWE Money in the Bank premium live event. It was another great pay-per-view live event, we call that. I enjoyed it. Couple takeaways here. Surprised at both winners of the Money in the Bank. Surprised at not only Damian Priest, who I had as a wild card, didn't think they would pull the trigger on Damian Priest. I thought Logan Paul would win or LA Knight. They went Damian Priest, of course, which I do like that. No, I don't mind it. But also Io Sky on the women's side winning the briefcase as well too on the show. I thought maybe Trish Stratus would have won that. Maybe Becky Lynch or Bayley would have pulled it out, try and true. But again, this is why I'm assuming this is obviously Triple H's booking. This is why I love Triple H's booking. It feels fresh, feels good. So the surprise is there. We saw the return of Drew McIntyre after Sheamus's win over Matt Riddle. Drew McIntyre's back after months away. I think it was due to contract negotiations and stuff. He's back now. Obviously, we expect to see a Drew Sheamus IC title match at SummerSlam. That's the assumption now with this latest thing. They had John Cena come out also to surprise as well, and he's plugging to the crowd a possible WrestleMania in London. Maybe WrestleMania 41 in London, England. Who knows? Hello, I'm all for it. It's a great crowd value also too. We got new tag champs also. Ronda and Shayna Baszler. Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler blew the tag championships to Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. That was a surprise too. Also, Shayna also turned on Ronda. We'll see where that angle goes now going forward. Another surprise that Cody beating Dominic Mysterio was not a surprise. Where I was surprised that Brock Lesnar did not show up or did not get involved in the match at all. So that's no surprise there. Seth Rollins retaining also was not a surprise, but the surprise really was the fact there was really no issue outside the ring. I know Damian Priest did come out ringside, but he came out there just to kind of tease a possible cash in, but never really happened. I know obviously Damian Priest and Finn Balor, a little bit of a discontentment after the match. Let's see how the Judgment Day angle goes going forward. And then, of course, the big one, the Bloodline storyline, has officially hit uncharted waters. The Usos win, but it's not the fact that the Usos won the match. It's the fact that they pinned Roman Reigns. Roman has been pinned for the first time since late 2019. That's for 3.5 years now. Since he's been fully pinned cleanly. And this is the beauty of the storyline. I've been saying this since WrestleMania. And this is why I'm glad Cody did not win the title against Roman at WrestleMania. Because now we're entering uncharted waters now. Where's the story going to go next now? We're not a place now where, yes, Jimmy left the bloodline, left Roman. And then Jay leaves a couple weeks later. And then have this civil war. Okay, and then the Usos win. So you're seeing the cracks in the foundation continue. The last crack is going to be Roman loses his title. But who will take it? Who will win the title? Would it be one of the Usos? Would it be Cody? Would it be this? Who would it be? Will there be more other bloodline members of the family that are not involved in the story now coming into the story going forward? That's the beauty. And I said this after WrestleMania in April. I am done predicting things on this. I'm going to let the story take me where it needs to take me. And I'm just going to take it in and enjoy it. And this is I'll say it again. This is cinema. Triple H even said himself after yesterday, after Money in the Bank. This is cinema. This is fantastic. This is a 3-year odyssey, and it's not slowing down. And they're finding new ways to keep you involved, to keep the story fresh. Where it goes next, I don't know. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of this whole thing. So just enjoy it, man. What's the SummerSlam match? Do we get Roman against Jimmy or Jay at SummerSlam for the title? And we had Tim on the podcast on the last episode. He said that Jimmy and Jay could see Jimmy turning on Jay at some point, and then they fight at SummerSlam. That didn't happen this week, but doesn't mean it couldn't happen in the weeks to come between now and SummerSlam. I will say some of the surprises I thought was going to happen didn't happen, and I think the reason why it didn't happen is because I think they're saving all the surprise for TV. Honestly, like Brock coming out and and fucking up Cody at some point. I thought that happened during this show, but it could happen at Raw or SmackDown. You know what I'm saying? No cash-ins yet. No cash-ins, which is good. Let this marinate a little bit too. Also, I'm okay with that. Like I said, Brock not coming down and fucking up Cody before SummerSlam. Save that for TV. And what they're doing is spreading the wealth here. They're making Raw and SmackDown must-watch TV. Okay? By Brock not coming out and messing around with Cody during this match. But yet we assume that it will happen at some point. But if it's going to happen, it's going to happen on a Raw. on a show, on a TV show. So it makes you want to watch the show. So spread out the wealth a little bit, which is good. I'm okay with that. The cash-ins, maybe there's a cash-in between now and SummerSlam. Maybe the cash-in happen on the main shows. Maybe it happens at Raw, SmackDown. It makes you want to watch a TV show. So this is why I love Triple H and his booking right now. This month is actually going to be this month is actually a full year. Well, it'll be the end of July, but we're in July now, so this month is a full year since Triple H has taken over the book. This might be my topic on the Take 3 as a podcast this week, in fact. And I think we'll discuss that. Obviously, we if this is a topic I decide to go with. But he has done a phenomenal job, and I think the big thing for me when it comes to the entire roster, look, he's not batting 1,000% on this, for the record. There's been some things he's messed up on. Okay, we can discuss that. But I think overall, the big success with Triple H here since taking over the book last year is that the product feels fresh. It feels like everybody has a chance to flourish here. Mid-carders, NXT guys. Look at LA Knight now getting shine. Guys like that would have probably not gotten any shine under Vince. Vince's control. You know? And I'm glad. Look, I'm sure Vince still has some say-so when it comes to decisions made with the company now, because he's still the owner. Okay? But at least from what I'm seeing here, I'm glad Hunter has still has, control over creative. Because if Vince listens to this podcast, probably not, but obviously, but this is a podcast, Hunter is doing a fantastic job. He's made this product must watch. And that's all you can ask for as a fan. Okay? And that's where I'll leave you with this podcast here. Again, dated July 2nd, 2023. Again, I'm on Twitter at EJChristian7. Again, folks, follow my YouTube page at youtube.com/@EarnestChristian. We will talk to you guys soon. No show Tuesday because it is 4th of July. So we'll be back probably Thursday as well. That's exactly why I want to do a show today too as well. So unless there's like breaking news, the Lillard trade goes down, this happens between now and then, next show will be most likely Thursday. So look out for that. Anyway, talk to you guys soon. Love you guys. Take care and see you.